traditional music it was at the start of it just starting to become sort of organised in a way. You know, there were few cultus branches. It was still kind of the main outlet for traditional musicians to play. There was a kind of an on the sort of side kind of music scene emerging in Dublin around Slattery's and places like that, which Tommy was very, very involved in. But the sort of the environment of the music was mainly through cultus, through competitions, Flanachole. That's where you congregated. That's where you met other musicians. So that was the social sort of kind of centre for it. It was through the cultus. As I said then in the 70s and, you know, the early 70s, then Slattery started emerging, and then there was a sort of a folk scene emerged, and which, you know, had kind of changed from the ballad scene because it was now including the instrumental tradition. The ballad scene was basically about kind of ballads, but and sort of the few tunes that we played just as a kind of to give singers a rest. But now the sort of the instrumental tradition was starting to get the focus, and it's starting to become sort of taken really, really seriously. And so opportunities then opened up for guys of our generation to perform around the country at different sort of venues. Well, a lot of the musicians I knew, like, who were sort of, let's say, they were doing gigs, but those gigs were part of ballad sessions. So the Abbey Tavern in Howth, the place up in Talla, the Embankment. So traditional musicians were getting gigs at those. In the meantime, there was this sort of Glackin were very active. Records were starting to come out. Post the sort of say the Sean O'Rea, the kind of Sagaiety record and things like that. So there was a kind of an emerging sort of an interest in it. And there was a younger generation of people. And what there was people who wanted to listen to it. This is really, really important. This wouldn't have happened if there wasn't an audience. You know, and that's why I keep going on about audience is really, really important. We had an audience. So you put it out there and it was received. And therefore people kind of, then they picked and they chose as to what they wanted to do. And this was really, I think, like, was every bit as important as the musicians playing, was the fact that they had somebody to give it to. And Tommy had an audience. People were really curious about the way he played. So this, in the early days of Slattery's, you know, you bought the evening press every day to see, for two reasons. I bought the evening press, particularly on a Wednesday, was one, to see the GAA page, to see what was going on in Dublin, and the would see who was playing in Slattery's that night. And through the week, there was a downstairs session in Slattery's, which Tommy played with Paddy O'Brien, who now lives in America, and a guy called Joey Walsh, who played the bar on it. So it was Paddy, Tommy and Joey, that's what they were known as. And they played in downstairs in Slattery's. And it was just a session, but it became very, very popular. Then upstairs you had the Tradition Club, which was a completely different proposition altogether, where it became it was a really sort of a very intimidating place to play, is the only way it can be described, because every musician in the town went there. There was a huge audience, the place was stuffed, and you were being judged by your peers every Wednesday night. So you went up and you played, and it was not easy to do it. And I did see, you know, musicians who wouldn't have been used to it come and play there, and they would underperform because of nerves. It wasn't that they were bad musicians, it was just that the pure pressure of it was there. And it was a pressure because it was very highly critical audience. But Tommy was a regular there, and the thing about it was that there was such an array of different people. Like, you went there every night, for example, you know, you could go there, say, next Wednesday night, and you would have Seamus Ennis, Paul Brady, and Tommy Peoples. Following week, you'd have Darragh O'Cahan, Sean Keane, Matt Malloy, same night. And everybody would just you do two solo spots. That was the night. But it was really, really intense stuff, and if you didn't listen, you were put out. You know, it was quite, the people who ran it did a great service to the music. They created a serious audience. And everybody knew going to Slattery's that, well, you had to be kind of on top of your game if you're going to play there. And there'd be no messing. And so that's the way it was.